The chamber was vast and cold, filled with murmurs and self-assured smirks. Representatives from over 40 starfaring civilizations sat in polished tiers, many of them barely concealing their condescension as the name, human delegation, echoed across the floor. Earth's envoys were the last to arrive. No words. No posturing. Just 4 of them, in stark black, eyes scanning the room like observers rather than participants. They sat without fuss. The silence was louder than any war drum. Counselor Varkan, veteran of 2 galactic wars and self-proclaimed guardian of unity, cleared his throat with ceremonial gravitas. "We are gathered today to address a grave breach of council law." His voice, layered with artificial amplification, projected a sense of command. "The actions committed by your world, by your forces, have sent shockwaves through systems that have known peace for centuries. You were offered a seat at this table. And now you've lit matches beneath it." A ripple of support followed from other council members, Valari, Triask, Moridari, all voices wrapped in superiority. They condemned the orbital strikes conducted by Earth's forces across 3 council-protected colonies. Words like barbaric, disproportionate, and lawless were flung with rehearsed outrage. Not once did anyone mention Earth's losses. Not once did they ask why. The humans didn't flinch. Not at the accusation, not at the sarcasm. President Leona Morel, who led the delegation, allowed the barrage to roll past her. She sat perfectly still until the last voice echoed out. Then she rose, not with defensiveness but deliberate certainty. "If we're to be judged," she said calmly, "you should see what you're judging us for." Her voice wasn't loud, but it traveled, as if gravity pulled attention toward her. She didn't look angry. She looked precise. A slight motion of her hand, and the walls dimmed. "No dramatics, President," interrupted the Valari representative. "Your actions speak loud enough." Mirel didn't respond to him. She didn't need to. Behind her, a screen lit up. Not a visual, evidence It began with satellite footage. The defense grid over Earth flickering to life, not in response to training, but in desperation. Dozens of unidentified ships punching through orbit at speeds far exceeding Council patrol patterns. Explosions cascaded across the atmosphere. Then came the sound, radio chatter, screams, loss of life. The camera caught a fleet of unknown origin targeting metropolitan zones with zero regard for civilian life. The Valari insignia glimmered on one of the command vessels as it broke through the upper atmosphere. No voiceover explained the scenes. The destruction said enough. The sequence ended with a still shot of Earth, dark in several continents, its skies lit by fire. Morel spoke again, quietly. "That was 4 months ago. No declaration. No warning. No negotiation. You didn't even tell us why." A pause. Not one delegate met her eyes. "We buried entire cities. We pulled children from rubble. We lost more people in 2 hours than some of your species have in recorded history. And we said nothing. Until now." Varkan opened his mouth, but she didn't let him speak. "You condemned our response," she continued. "But you ignored the attack. You called our retaliation disproportionate. So let me be clear, we struck military installations. We targeted only those who armed and launched the assault. We left your civilians untouched, despite what was done to ours. That's not disproportionate. That's restraint." Murmurs turned into silence. Some shifted uncomfortably. Others checked devices. No one refuted her. Morel stepped forward. "We had no allies. No warnings. Only ruins and silence from the Council. So we responded alone. And now you drag us here to shame us for surviving?" Her eyes scanned the room, unblinking. "We didn't lash out because of anger. We responded because someone needed to understand, Earth is not a training ground for your weapons. We are not an experiment. And we are not prey." She stepped back without another word. The room was so quiet it felt airless. The human delegation did not plead. Did not ask for sympathy. They simply waited, eyes forward, back straight, unmoved by the performance of condemnation unfolding around them. For the first time in the Chamber's history, the Council's authority felt uncertain. No one had expected humans to arrive with proof. No one expected them to speak without begging. No one expected them to act like they belong. But they did. And something in the chamber shifted. The screen faded back to darkness, and for a moment, no one spoke. The images were too raw. The truth too direct. No narration, no interpretation, just facts. Destruction, fire, and undeniable insignias caught in the middle of a mass-scale atrocity. The Valari crest had been visible in 5 separate frames. Its battlecruisers marked, logged, and geopositioned above Earth's major cities. No plausible deniability remained. The silence cracked when a low-ranking Valari envoy attempted to deflect. These visuals could be manufactured. Earth's systems are primitive but not above deception. Mirel didn't respond. She simply gestured again. A new feed began. This time, it wasn't satellite footage. It was audio, sliced together transmissions intercepted by Earth's autonomous listening array weeks before the assault. The voices were unmistakable. Valari commanders laughing, talking in open channels. If they respond, we'll act surprised. They're too new to retaliate meaningfully. Another voice. Hit their cities first. Cripple them. Then we negotiate peace on our terms. The recording cut out. Another file took its place, a council planning session, captured through a secure breach by Earth's quantum relay probes. The voices were coded, distorted, but unmistakably members of 2 prominent council factions. They didn't just know about the operation, they had approved it. A discussion on resource redirection. Earth's abundant minerals. Talks of installing a favorable regime after the strike. One delegate had even joked, once they lose a capital or 2, they'll fall in line. No one laughed now. The Valari envoy froze, jaw tightening. Others tried to interrupt, but the presentation continued. Dated financial logs flowed across the screen. Fuel transactions, weapons manufacturing orders, route masking protocols, all signed, sealed, and tied to council subcommittees. All pre-assault. Mirel finally spoke again. You didn't act alone. You had help. You had permission. We were deemed easy targets. Disposable. Replaceable. And now you want to frame our defense as aggression? She tapped a control on her console. A final file opened. It was Earth's casualty report, presented without embellishment. 2 billion dead across 13 nations. 10 billion displaced. Infrastructure collapse across 38% of the planet. Atmospheric damage triggering climate instability. The file ended with a time-stamped signature, President Leona Mirel. Filed 1 hour before Earth's response operations began. The room felt smaller. No one spoke. The visuals hadn't been dramatized. They hadn't needed to be. Mirel turned slowly toward the primary delegates. We lost 1/3 of our population before a single shot was fired in return. Our cities are still rebuilding. We still burn our dead. And yet, she paused, not for emphasis, but because words now had weight. We didn't retaliate randomly. We didn't target civilians. We didn't wipe out the Valari homeworld. We struck military-only targets with precision. We planned for minimum death. Because even then, after everything, you were still part of this council. And we still held to our principles. A Soren ambassador stood, voice trembling. The actions of the Valari were unauthorized. The council was not informed. She didn't raise her voice. Then your council is either complicit or irrelevant. A wave of murmuring followed, but no one challenged the statement directly. They couldn't. The evidence laid bare the reality they had hoped would stay hidden. Earth hadn't just retaliated, Earth had done so with surgical restraint, after unbearable provocation. No planet, no race, no council had ever shown such discipline in response to such devastation. Another delegate, Triascan by origin, tried diplomacy. Surely you understand this was a miscommunication. Our systems are vast. There are factions. Not all intentions were shared. Mirelle shook her head. That excuse has a shelf life. And it expired the moment our skies turned red. Counselor Varkin finally spoke, trying to salvage authority. You should have come to us first. We would have investigated. We did. Mirelle's answer came like a blade. We filed 12 distress reports. Not one received a reply. And we now know why. You were already counting profits. The air thickened with implication. The council hadn't just failed, it had betrayed. Mirelle folded her arms. You call our actions excessive. I call them restrained. You label us reckless. But every move we made was calculated, ethical, and deliberate. We respected a moral code you discarded the moment we became inconvenient. No one clapped. No one agreed aloud. But the expression in the gallery shifted. Minor species who had long endured under council decisions now looked at humanity differently. Not as newcomers, but as peers, maybe more. The screen shut off. The lights rose. Mirelle didn't sit. She didn't have to. Her message was clear. They hadn't come to explain. They had come to show the truth. And the galaxy had no choice but to look. Counselor Varkin leaned forward, fingers trembling slightly as he gripped the edge of the table. He stared at the darkened screen for a long moment before lifting his gaze toward the human delegation. His voice, when it finally came, lacked its usual confidence. This was not sanctioned by the full council. The Velari acted without unified consent. We were unaware of the extent. The lie was too soft. Too late. Across the chamber, murmurs rose, not from Earth's corner, but from factions previously loyal to the Council's dominant powers. Delegates whispered, shared looks, accessed personal feeds. Truth had broken containment. What was once buried beneath bureaucracy and politics now sat in front of every species watching, undeniable and permanent. The Velari envoy remained frozen, pale scales shimmering under chamber light. He didn't deny. He couldn't. Earth had dragged their deeds into the open and nailed them down with precision. Nothing left to twist or reshape. The strike was deliberate. The orders documented. The support proven. Mirelle watched them calmly. She didn't push further. She didn't need to. The damage was already done. From the lower tier, the representative of the Kaler Compact stood, voice low but firm. How many other decisions have been buried like this? If Earth was targeted today, who will it be tomorrow? The question didn't need answering. Heads turned. Silence thickened. Council structure had never been perfect, but until now, its cracks had been manageable. Earth hadn't just exposed corruption, they'd proved it, line by line, in front of the whole galaxy. The illusion of unity was gone. Another voice joined, this time from the Yethari Dominion. The humans struck military targets only. We verified some of the strikes on our own logs. Their discipline shames the entire council. Even long-standing allies began distancing themselves from the Velari. One by one, diplomatic links started to fray. Earth's display hadn't caused panic through threat, it had shattered trust through fact. A shift rippled outward. Council members opened private channels. Messages blinked on discrete devices. The balance had changed. Those who once believed Earth could be ignored were recalculating. If they could absorb an unprovoked planetary assault, bury billions, and still strike with restraint, what else were they capable of? Mirelle leaned forward, her tones still measured. You ask why we didn't wait for a council investigation. We waited 4 weeks. Watched as your internal networks discussed compensation payments for territories not yet secured. You traded the ruins of our cities before the fires stopped burning. You called us impulsive. No. We were patient. The Andari delegate, once neutral, spoke softly. Your restraint, it's terrifying. Mirelle met his gaze. It should be. She paused before continuing. We built our response systems in 6 days. The strikes were executed in under 12 hours. No civilians harmed. All military targets neutralized. Your fleets couldn't stop us. Not because we overpowered them, But because you never imagined we would survive the first blow. No one interrupted her now. The quiet wasn't fear alone, it was respect mixed with unease. Every known military doctrine had underestimated humans. Their technology was advanced but not dominant. Their fleets weren't the largest. Yet they had demonstrated something more dangerous: precision, intelligence, and purpose. Counselor Varkin tried to reassert order. What are your demands? Morel gave no list. We're not here to negotiate. We came to show the truth. What comes next is your choice, not ours. No ultimatums. No threats. Just clarity. The Moridari faction called for an emergency internal inquiry. Others demanded full review of all recent Council military authorizations. But it was too late to unring the bell. Trust had cracked beyond repair. Earth's words had pierced deeper than any weapon. Even their silence now spoke volumes. Delegates began calculating survival, not dominance. Strategic alliances were reconsidered. New pacts whispered behind folded hands. The power that had for centuries sat within the Council's inner circle now hung loose, vulnerable. Earth hadn't seized it. They'd simply exposed who didn't deserve it. For the first time, the Council understood what they had summoned. Not a desperate world clawing for relevance, but a civilization that had taken its scars, counted its dead, and made a choice, not to beg, not to scream, but to show what justice looked like when no one else delivered it. Morel and her team sat in silence, untouched by the shifting chaos. They had nothing more to prove. The galaxy could interpret what it had seen any way it wanted. But one truth now rang louder than any accusation. Humanity had come prepared. And the old rules no longer applied. The council chamber had grown cautious. Power, once casually exercised, now felt fragile. No declarations had been made, yet everything had shifted. The illusion of order had collapsed under the weight of proof, and in the silence that followed, Earth became something else entirely, unignorable. President Morel stood again, not with raised voice or threat, but with the calm finality of someone done asking permission. You questioned our actions. You demanded answers. But now the question is yours: what does the Council stand for, if not protection of the innocent? What value do your rules hold when they fail to restrain the guilty? No reply came. She continued. Earth has survived worse than silence. But we no longer accept it. So today we state, not request, our position. We call it the human doctrine. It is not a treaty. It is not negotiable. It is the foundation on which our future rests. Delegates leaned in, uncertain whether to be intrigued or alarmed. Morel's voice didn't waver. First, any assault on human territory, civilian, military, or infrastructural, will be answered swiftly, proportionally, and without debate. No gasps, only understanding. Second, retaliation will never target non-combatants. We will not mirror the actions that were taken against us. But we will end threats decisively. She let the words settle before continuing. Third, the era of diplomatic silence in the face of atrocity is over. Any species engaging in or supporting attacks against our people will be considered hostile. Indirect involvement will not protect you. Some bristled. Others took notes. Lastly, Earth does not seek conquest. We do not expand through subjugation. But we will protect our allies. If you stand with us, we stand with you. If you attack us, understand we no longer ask for recognition. We act. It wasn't just a doctrine. It was a declaration of independence, from fear, from manipulation, from the archaic politics that had let genocide wear a mask of legality. Morel gestured again. A separate panel activated, displaying classified strategic data. Our defense systems have evolved. We no longer rely on inherited patterns of war. Our fleets are guided by predictive AI. We do not guess, we calculate. Our weapons are faster, smaller, and more precise. Our orbital defense grid is now planetary. 1 hour's notice is enough. Charts and simulations flowed across the display, battle analyses, counter-strike models, threat containment protocols. The message was clear. Earth had adapted. Not to dominate, but to ensure no second Earth fall would ever occur. She turned her gaze toward the outer rings of the chamber, where lesser species usually sat in silence. You've seen the same neglect we did. The same hierarchies. You've had peace negotiated for you, not with you. Some of you have been waiting for someone to speak the words you could not afford to say. We just did. One by one, signals pinged across the diplomatic interface. Low-tier civilizations transmitting messages to Earth's network. Requests, affirmations, quiet offers of alignment. Earth had done what the Council never dared, publicly refused to be silent. Mirelle let the momentum carry itself. She didn't rally. She didn't promise. She simply told the truth. Our strength was never in numbers. It wasn't in weapons or fleets. It was in resolve. In restraint. We suffered, we endured, and we answered with clarity. That is what defines us. That is what we bring. There were no cheers, no applause, only gravity. Some saw it as a threat. Others saw it as leadership. But none could deny it was real. The Valari envoy, still seated, whispered into his calms. His authority had faded. His silence said more than any defense could. A predator, exposed and surrounded by those no longer afraid. Mirelle concluded. You wanted to know why Earth struck back? Because we remembered who we were. And now you remember too. She stepped away, leaving the doctrine where it belonged, not as warning, but as law. Not to impose fear, but to deny injustice the comfort of precedent. Across the galaxy, systems once aligned with Council oversight began transmitting questions, not to the Council, but to Earth. Not as supplicants, but as potential equals. The political shift had already begun. The doctrine didn't demand loyalty. It demanded truth. And Earth had become the first to demand it without apology. The Council hadn't lost control in a single moment. It had lost relevance in 1,000 quiet ones. Earth had simply been the first to say it aloud. And now, the rest were listening. A motion was filed. The Valari demanded Earth's expulsion from the Council. 2 allied factions quickly seconded it, framing it as a necessity for preserving galactic order. The old power bloc attempted to reassert control under the veil of procedure, pretending as if what had just unfolded could be boxed away and filed as protocol. But the room had changed. The delegates had changed. Earth had made sure of it. The vote was called. Names lit up across the board. Then Mirelle stood, not to plead, not to argue, but to end it. You misunderstand what this moment is, she began, voice calm as ever. You think this vote defines our future. You still believe you hold the pen. But that illusion shattered when you turned our home into ash and expected silence in return. The board flickered. Delegates hesitated. We came here not to ask for approval. Not to justify our survival. We came to give you one final chance to face your own reflection. She turned slightly, not to any one delegate, but to the chamber as a whole. We buried cities. Held vigils in the dark. Watched survivors claw through rubble for names. And while we mourned, your members profited. You didn't just fail us. You monetized our tragedy. Her gaze swept the room. We responded not with firestorms, but with precision. We followed rules you abandoned. And now you question our place here? She didn't raise her voice, didn't need to. You don't get to vote on us. Not anymore. A soft ping echoed through the chamber as Earth's delegation transmitted a final communiqué. The Council systems logged it instantly. Earth had formally withdrawn. The vote collapsed into irrelevance. Mirelle continued, unmoved by the stunned silence. We will not remain part of a structure that calls restraint weakness, that mistakes survival for rebellion. You thought this chamber gave you power. It gave you excuses? She took one measured breath. Earth no longer grants you either. The lights dimmed as Earth's exit was confirmed across the galactic network. Dozens of minor factions immediately sent messages. Some offered private support. Others simply acknowledged what had become obvious, that Earth's role in galactic affairs was no longer something the Council could define. Mirelle's final message was brief. To those who watched us burn and said nothing, know this: we are no longer the ones waiting at your gates. We are the ones you now must account for. She turned, and without ceremony, led her team from the floor. No hesitation. No backward glance. Just silence in their wake. The chamber remained frozen. Varkan slumped back into his seat, his authority hollow. The Valari envoys stared blankly, unable to reclaim lost ground. The remaining delegates sat with the weight of something undeniable. Earth hadn't begged for a place. They had proved they didn't need one. Outside, Earth's ships were already in motion. Not to attack. Not to posture. Simply present. A message transmitted across public bands, not of conquest, but of intent. Defense grids would remain active. Borders would be monitored. But Earth was not closing itself off. It was opening new doors, on its own terms. Back inside, a Soren ambassador leaned to her aide and whispered, "They gave us a chance to choose. And we almost missed it." A Yethari delegate followed with words meant only for himself. "They walked away, and left the entire galaxy behind them." The message was never about vengeance. It wasn't about domination. It was about clarity. Earth had endured the worst and responded with discipline. They had taken betrayal, pain, and loss, and forged resolve. No alliances declared. No demands issued. Just a presence the Council could no longer define or dismiss. In corridors of power across hundreds of worlds, Earth's actions would be replayed, dissected, analyzed. But one fact would remain consistent. While others clung to structure, Earth had revealed substance. While the Council debated authority, Earth had demonstrated it. They didn't come seeking approval. They came to deliver a reminder. That they were never lesser. That they never needed permission. And that the next time someone raised a hand against Earth, they wouldn't be met with explanation. They would be met with consequence.